Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. The Miami Dolphins are entering an off-season that promises to be nothing short of transformative, with changes looming at nearly every level of the organization. At the top of the priority list is a shift in the front office, where the general manager position is already in flux. Whoever steps into that role will almost certainly influence the trajectory of the team, potentially ushering in a new head coach and triggering ripple effects across the roster. Among the positions under scrutiny, quarterback remains a central question mark. TUA and the current starter, is undeniably talented, but his future is complicated by financial realities. By 2026, Tagovailoa is slated to command north of $50 million in fully guaranteed compensation. That figure alone represents a significant cap commitment, forcing the Dolphins to consider how best to balance talent and budget in the years ahead. While moving on from Tagovailoa entirely would be dramatic and headline-grabbing, a more nuanced strategy might involve hedging their bets at the quarterback position rather than making an abrupt exit. One potential avenue for the Dolphins is to add a high-upside alternative who could offer competitive flexibility without demanding the same level of financial investment as Tagovailoa. This approach could give Miami a viable secondary option while protecting the team from overcommitting in a salary cap sense. Enter Anthony Richardson, the dynamic young quarterback from the Colts, who has emerged as a name of interest, according to ESPN insider Jeremy Fowler. Richardson has expressed a desire to work under a coach connected to the Sean McVay tree, whether directly with McVay himself or one of his disciples like Frank Reich or Matt LaFleur. This is where Miami's current head coach, Mike McDaniel, enters the conversation. While McDaniel is not a direct McVay disciple, his offensive philosophy bears similarities, and his past interactions with the coaching elite, including a shared history with McVay during their time in Washington from 2011 to 2013, make him McVay adjacent. That connection could be enough to attract Richardson to South Florida, particularly if the Dolphins can present a clear plan for offensive continuity and growth. The appeal for Richardson is clear. He is under contract in 2026 for a scheduled $5.385 million, a number that is far more manageable than the looming $50 million plus owed to Tagovailoa. By pairing him with McDaniel, Miami could offer Richardson a platform to showcase his unique physical skills in a familiar scheme, potentially unlocking the type of dynamic quarterback play that could elevate the Dolphins' offense in new ways. However, there are hurdles. First, Miami would need to demonstrate a long-term commitment to McDaniel, ensuring that the offensive system remains intact and attractive to an incoming quarterback. Secondly, the team would have to negotiate appropriate trade compensation for Richardson, who has yet to fully translate his physical gifts into consistent on-field success. These challenges are far from insurmountable, but they highlight the careful balancing act the Dolphins must execute if they hope to hedge effectively at quarterback without compromising the core of the roster. For fans and analysts watching closely, the quarterback situation in Miami is a delicate dance between prudence and ambition. Tua Tagovailoa represents the established path, a player with proven capability and a deep understanding of McDaniel's scheme. Yet his contract looms like a shadow over the roster, limiting flexibility and demanding creativity in cap management. An infusion of talent like Anthony Richardson offers a tantalizing alternative, one that could provide both insurance and upside, especially if Miami is willing to structure a short-term, low-risk commitment. It's the kind of strategic maneuvering that separates teams with strong front offices from those that react hastily. The Dolphins, at this point, appear to be leaning toward careful consideration rather than impulsive moves. But the allure of a high-upside quarterback capable of stretching defenses and bringing a new dimension to the offense is undeniable. From a tactical standpoint, adding a quarterback like Richardson could influence more than just the starting lineup. It could alter the way Miami approaches free agency and the draft, shifting resources and priorities to maximize offensive versatility. A dynamic secondary option allows for creative play calling, from unconventional packages to deeper involvement in the passing game, and provides insurance against injury or inconsistency from Tagovailoa. For a team with Super Bowl aspiration, these types of strategic moves are critical. The Dolphins are not simply looking for a replacement or a short-term spark. They are considering how to structure a sustainable, high-powered offense that can compete at the top of the league for years to come. Every decision at quarterback has cascading effects, influencing personnel, cap space, and even coaching philosophy, making this offseason potentially one of the most pivotal in recent Dolphins history, beyond the financial and tactical considerations. There's also the cultural fit to consider. Richardson's desire to work with a coach from the McVay tree signals a preference for a progressive, adaptable offense that leverages quarterback mobility and creative scheme design. McDaniel, with his experience and innovative approach, aligns with this vision. This alignment goes beyond X and O's. It encompasses communication style, developmental philosophy, and long-term player growth. If Miami can capitalize on that alignment, it could create an environment where both Tagovailoa and Richardson thrive, even if only one ultimately assumes the long-term starting role. In other words, the Dolphins are exploring a path that emphasizes flexibility, foresight, and maximizing talent while mitigating risk. A sophisticated approach in an era where quarterback decisions often make or break franchises. Ultimately, the Dolphins' offseason strategy at quarterback is emblematic of the challenges facing modern NFL teams, managing elite talent like Tua Tagovailoa, navigating the salary cap, and pursuing promising young players like Anthony Richardson requires a balance of financial acumen, scouting insight, and coaching synergy. While the headlines may focus on potential trades or contract drama, the underlying narrative is one of strategic vision. The Dolphins are positioning themselves to maintain competitiveness while keeping their options open for the future. By exploring alternative quarterback solutions without undermining Tagovailoa's role, Miami demonstrates a level of organizational sophistication that could pay dividends for years to come. In the high-stakes world of the NFL, a single off-season decision can ripple across seasons, shaping not only wins and losses, but the very identity of a franchise. As the Dolphins navigate this complex landscape, one thing is clear: the quarterback position is far from settled, and the offseason promises intrigue, negotiation, and potentially game-changing moves, whether it's retaining Tua Tagovailoa as the unquestioned starter, introducing a high-upside hedge like Anthony Richardson, or finding creative ways to balance talent and cap space. Miami is preparing for a period of transformation. Fans can expect rumors, reports, and strategic teasers in the coming months, but behind the scenes, the front office is carefully weighing every option. This is not merely a transactional decision. It is a fundamental assessment of how the Dolphins intend to compete in the evolving NFL landscape. Blending innovation, talent management, and forward-looking strategy, the choices made in the next few months could define the trajectory of the franchise for the better part of the decade, setting the stage for either a triumphant resurgence or a cautionary tale of untapped potential. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments, what's your take on the Fins this week? The air around Miami Dolphins headquarters has been thick with whispers, tension, and speculation ever since one of the NFL's most iconic voices decided to break his silence. Dan Marino, the legendary quarterback whose shadow looms over South Florida football, didn't hold back this time. Sources close to the team have been buzzing with the details. And if you thought the Dolphins were just another team cruising through the season, think again. According to the rumblings, Marino didn't just offer a critique. He delivered a verdict that has shaken both fans and insiders alike. Words like lack of focus, unprepared, and disappointing have been circulating in locker rooms and press corners, attributed directly to Marino's searing comments. While he didn't mince words, his gaze seemed to fall squarely on the team's biggest stars, Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill. It's rare to hear such pointed criticism, especially from someone whose name is synonymous with the franchise's golden era, and the reaction has been immediate and electric. Whispers suggest that the Dolphins' locker room has felt the tremor of Marino's statement for days. There's talk of heated conversations, private meetings with coaches, and an overall atmosphere that feels more charged than usual. People close to the team say Marino's frustration isn't about individual mistakes or single plays. It's about what he sees as a systemic problem, a team that seems to be drifting without the laser focus necessary to compete at the highest level. When someone like Dan Marino talks about focus, it isn't casual commentary. His reputation, his years of experience, and his legendary vision on the field lend weight to every syllable. And now, insiders are hinting that Tua and Tyreek, usually seen as the dynamic duo capable of changing games with a single snap, are squarely in the crosshairs of that critique, whether it's about preparation, mindset, or simply executing under pressure. The suggestion is that Marino sees gaps that are too glaring to ignore. The discussion around Tua Tagovailoa is particularly charged. Tua, whose full name Emmanuel Tagovailoa is as unique as his playing style, has been under scrutiny from the moment he was drafted. Known for his college stints at the Garden City Community College, the University of Oklahoma, and West Alabama, Tua's trajectory was always meant to be extraordinary. But whispers indicate that Marino is concerned about what he perceives as moments of inconsistency, lapses in leadership, and perhaps a failure to fully command the locker room in the way that a franchise quarterback must. The rumor mill suggests that while Tua's talent is undeniable, Marino sees a disconnect between skill and execution, and it's that disconnect that has reportedly prompted such a public airing of grievances. Fans have been dissecting every throw, every timeout, and every audible, trying to guess whether this is an early season hiccup or a deeper, more structural concern that Marino feels needs to be addressed immediately. Then there's Tyreek Hill, the mercurial playmaker whose speed and explosiveness have made him a nightmare for defenses across the league. Hill, a player with a resume as dazzling as it is intense, has been linked to Marino's critique as well. According to inside sources, the concern isn't about Hill's physical abilities, they're unquestionable, but about focus and alignment with team strategy. The rumor suggests Marino believes that Hill, despite his incredible talent, might be operating in a vacuum at times, prioritizing individual moments of brilliance over cohesive, team-centered execution. The chatter in the Dolphins' inner circles hints at a delicate balancing act, how to harness Tyreek's extraordinary capabilities without letting them overshadow the team's broader objectives. Marino's comments have reportedly sparked debate among the coaching staff as well, with some arguing that leadership and discipline need to be recalibrated to match the talent on the field. Fans online have been going wild, dissecting every nuance of Marino's statement, from the tone to the timing. Social media feeds are flooded with speculation. Is this a wake-up call, or a critique that could destabilize the locker room? Veteran commentators suggest that Marino's reputation for candidness makes him uniquely positioned to deliver such a message. It carries more weight than any headline or analyst's opinion, but the murmurings from behind the scenes hint at tension, uncertainty, and a sense that the Dolphins' high-flying offense may be at a crossroads. There's talk of private sessions between the coaching staff and players, intense film reviews, and a renewed focus on discipline and mental preparation. The rumor is that Marino's words have ignited a fire, one that could either forge the team into something more cohesive or, if handled poorly, exacerbate existing fractures. Adding fuel to the fire are murmurs about the team's broader culture and mindset. Marino's critique reportedly extends beyond Tua and Tyreek, touching on a perceived lack of collective urgency and professional discipline. According to sources, he's questioned whether the roster as a whole has the mental toughness to meet the franchise's high expectations. The buzz suggests that conversations about accountability, preparation, and the psychology of winning are now front and center in the Dolphins facility. Whether Marino's commentary was meant to shock, inspire, or simply offer hard truths, it's clear that it has stirred discussions that go far beyond X's and O's. Insiders hint that this moment could define the season, with every practice, every huddle, and every game now being filtered through the lens of Marino's critique. The rumblings suggest that the locker room is in a rare state of self-reflection, something that could ultimately change the trajectory of the team if addressed with focus and intention. Meanwhile, the story has taken on a life of its own outside the team. Analysts, former players, and media personalities are weighing in, speculating on the potential fallout and the implications for the Dolphins' high-profile roster. Some suggest that Tua and Tyreek, despite their superstar status, may need to adjust their approach, embrace new responsibilities, and demonstrate the leadership that Marino's critique implies is lacking. Others argue that this could be the spark that pushes Miami to fully realize its potential, forcing the stars to rise to the level expected of them. Online forums are buzzing with scenarios, hypothetical responses, and predictions about how the team might respond in practices, games, and public statements. The rumor mill paints a picture of a franchise on edge, aware that its legacy and future success may hinge on how seriously it internalizes the words of one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever wear a Dolphins uniform. Sources close to the locker room hint at private conversations that have been happening in the wake of Marino's statements. Coaches are reportedly emphasizing focused drills, situational awareness, and accountability in ways that suggest this isn't just a passing critique. It's a cultural intervention. Tua is said to be reflecting on his preparation routines, mechanics, and approach to leadership, while Tyreek is reportedly being encouraged to channel his natural explosiveness in ways that maximize team cohesion rather than individual glory. The rumor is that these conversations are intense, raw, and potentially transformative, signaling that the Dolphins' approach to mental preparation may see a dramatic shift. There's speculation that Marino himself could play a more active role in mentoring these players, leveraging his decades of experience to guide them through a season that now carries an extra layer of scrutiny and expectation. And yet, as with all rumors, there's uncertainty. Not everyone in the Dolphins' inner circles is convinced that Marino's critique will be received as intended. Some suggest that players may initially bristle, feeling the sting of criticism from a legend whose accomplishments are untouchable. Others point out that such candid feedback could be exactly what's needed to push a talented but occasionally unfocused team to its limits. The murmurings hint at a delicate balancing act, one where leadership, communication, and trust will be tested. Observers note that the Dolphins' next few weeks could reveal whether Marino's words spark a renaissance or intensify existing pressures, and whether Tua and Tyreek can embrace the challenge and translate it into on-field dominance. Every film session, practice rep, and team meeting is now potentially being colored by the shadow of these remarks. As the Dolphins navigate the unpredictable intersection of talent, personality, and expectation, even as this story continues to unfold, the chatter isn't slowing down. Insider voices suggest that the conversation is evolving beyond criticism and into actionable strategy. Marino's words, once merely commentary, are now being treated as a catalyst, prompting players and coaches to examine every detail of preparation, every element of focus, and every decision made under the bright lights of expectation. Fans and analysts alike are speculating whether this scrutiny will result in adjustments in play calling, leadership structures, or even team culture. The rumor mill hints that the Dolphins' season may hinge not on a single game or statistic, but on how deeply Tua, Tyreek, and the roster as a whole internalize the legendary quarterback's message. There's a sense of anticipation, almost like the calm before a storm, as everyone waits to see whether the team will rise to the challenge or falter under the weight of intense scrutiny. It's a rare moment in professional sports when a legend like Dan Marino steps into the conversation with such directness, and the ripple effect is already being felt. The buzz around Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill is intense. The locker room is reportedly electric, and fans are hanging on every whisper. Whether this marks the beginning of a turning point for the Dolphins or simply a dramatic footnote in a long season remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: Marino's critique has reignited the conversation about focus, leadership, and accountability in South Florida, and nobody involved, including Tua, Tyreek, and the coaching staff, will be able to ignore it. Rumor or reality, his words have left an indelible mark, and the Dolphins' journey from here is now under a microscope, with every move, every snap, and every decision under the watchful eye of history and expectation. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up!